Hello, everyone. The first of our veterinarians is Dr. Elizabeth Colleran. She heads 2 feline-only vet practices, one of them in Oregon and one of them here in California. She's the past president of the American Association of Feline Practitioners, and she also sits on that group's cat-friendly practice task force. Also with us is Dr. Catherine Klein, a professional services veterinarian with KindredBio. The 2 doctors will be joined later by a rescue cat I'm sure some of you know, Sir Thomas Trueheart. Please welcome Drs. Elizabeth Colleran and Catherine Klein.
Good afternoon. It's such a great pleasure to be here among all kinds of cat lovers.
So welcome, yes, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon to talk about cat-friendly healthcare. So before Dr. Colleran gets to her presentation, we're going to conduct a very short survey for any of you interested in participating. So normally at this sort of presentation, you're usually asked to put your phones away. I want everybody to take their phone out. And it's short, it's only 5 questions. No worries, your answers are going to be anonymous. Nobody will know what you've said. But if you get your phones out, and let me see how I get this to the first slide. Hang on. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So if you pull out your phone, there's no need to download an app. If you go online and you simply type in kahoot.it, okay? When that website comes up, it's going to ask you for a PIN, which I'm going to give you in a moment. You'll enter the PIN. It will then ask you to create a nickname. We do like family-friendly nicknames, please. And then you'll hit OK, go. And then when the questions come up, next to each response, there's 4 responses for each question. There's a little symbol next to that response, and those symbols will show up on your phone. All you need to do is click on that symbol, and it will then register your response. Okay? So here we go. So if everybody's on that site, you'll plug in that PIN. So the 3575701. And we get a little background music that comes with the Kahoot. And once you're in, create your nickname. I'll give you a couple of minutes so we can get everybody in there.
Lots of players.
I know, this is great. All right, we're up to over 80 players.
100.
I'll wait until it stops climbing.
I think we're there. Oh, close.
All right, we're slowing down.
Yep. Okay. Let's start.
Is there anybody who's not registered yet that still would like to join the Kahoot?
Okay.
Okay, we'll give you another minute or so.
I'm loving the names. Cat Mama. Kitty Kato. All right. I think we got them.
All right. So, first question. So this is our CatCon 2018 audience survey. So question number 1, how often do you take your cat to the veterinarian? Is it once yearly, several times each year, once every 3 years, or only when absolutely necessary? You have 30 seconds to answer each question.
Does it skip out by itself? Is it just, do you advance it? Okay, go ahead.
So we've got a few more seconds running down the clock. All right. Wow, pretty good. So we're fairly evenly split between once yearly, several times each year, and only when necessary. Wonderful. Next, which of the following are reasons you might bring your cat to the veterinarian? We have weight gain, weight loss, inappropriate urination, or all of the above.
hot. Go.
All right, a few more seconds, counting down. Let's see what we get.
All of the above.
Okay, all of the above. That's the winner here. Next, when do you prepare for your cat's visit to the veterinarian? Is it just minutes before the appointment? Hours before the appointment? Days before the appointment? Or you never stop preparing? Okay, who are those people that prepare minutes before the appointment?
I want to see your scars.
I know. All right. Next, what causes you stress as you prepare to visit the veterinarian? Is it catching your cat, putting your cat in the carrier, driving to the veterinarian's office, or all of the above? I have a funny feeling what might win this one, which is going to be the most popular answer.
Go.
Oh, okay. All of the above wins, but that drive is also not a very popular thing. Now, what causes you stress once you've entered the veterinary hospital? Is it going to be those dogs in the waiting room? Taking your cat out of the carrier in the exam room? Holding your cat as part of the physical exam, or all of the above? All right, time up. Dogs in the waiting room is number one. Okay. All right, so that's the end of our survey questions. Let me get back to the PowerPoint. Let's hope this works. There we go. Okay, so based upon your responses, I think you're going to be very interested in the information that Dr. Colleran is going to share with you today. You know, it's really so important that you have your pet examined by a veterinarian on a regular basis. And Dr. Colleran is going to provide some very useful advice and information you can take back home with you to help decrease some of those stresses involved with taking your cat to the veterinarian. Okay, so with that, I'll give you Dr. Elizabeth Colleran.
Thank you. All right, you guys. Let's see if we can figure out why this is so bad. One of the most important things to remember about cats is that they are not like any other domesticated animal, right? These cats are the very same cats that came into our lives 10,000 years ago when we began to stop moving around quite so much, and we started not planting grain, but actually gathering it up. And they found that as a really rich source of mice, so they began to live in our world. They became a companion of ours only 4,000 years ago. So this is FELIS SILVESTRIS LYBICA. It's a tabby, and this is the same cat that sleeps on your bed. Think of all the things we've done to domesticated animals. Think of how many different dog types there are and how many different cows and horses and sheep. Unlike them, we haven't messed with cats. And the reason that that is really important is they are exactly the same characters that they were 10,000 years ago. Solitary hunters, quite territorial, given to wandering, setting up very specific ideas of what their home range was like. Think about how your cat has devised the home range in your house. So it's a very interesting type of animal in that, unlike all these other species, we haven't made them workers. Most dogs and cows have become workers of ours, right? They had a purpose in life. And so we changed them to become what we needed them to be, not cats. Their cultural differences, however, have been vast. They went from this hunter-gatherer in this vast terrain to somebody who lives at the 24th floor of a high-rise apartment building. Think about that. So that was pretty quick, and the interesting thing is we've made no changes to them. So they experience the world entirely the same way they did before. They have different sensory experiences of the world than we have. The one thing that's brand new is that they are willing to form very deep social attachments with us. And people have been trying to do this with all kinds of different species for a very long time, including many other cats. But FELIS sylvestris LYBICA is the only one that is willing to love us. And if you want to know how I know your cat loves you, that's a whole other talk. We'll give it another time. So here's the reason why it's so important. You've all heard of Banfield, right? They are the biggest owner of veterinary practices in North America. What they have as a result of that is data. So this is the 2016 State of Pet Health, and you can read the same thing I can. A huge number of really serious health problems are growing in the cat population. Almost 500,000 cats had data collected by Banfield in 2016. Here's 2017. Now here's the thing that really upsets me about this slide. They had data on 2.5 million dogs and only 500,000 cats. Do you all know that the most popular companion animal now in North America is cats? That means there's more companion animal cats than dogs, but only 1 in 5 of them are seeing a veterinarian on a regular basis. And you can think about how that impacts quality of life and health care for the animals that are so beloved to us. And again, the Banfield data is clear that health issues are going unnoticed. This is another one I wanted to show you. This came out of our journal, the Journal of Feline Medicine and Surgery. They took 100 cats who were perceived to be healthy by their owners, who were 6 years of age or older, and did physical exams and some other diagnostics. And of those 100 cats, almost 3/4 of them had some form of dental disease. And in identifying the problem list for these 100 cats, they identified 2.7 health problems per cat in this study that they did. So what does that mean? That means we're not seeing it. My cats don't let on when they have something wrong with them. And your cats don't either. So what we have to do is learn how to read them better and recognize that quality of life and good health care go hand in hand. So what's the problem? It's awful taking your cat to a veterinarian. It's just plain awful. Because cats respond to different things in different ways than other animals do. For them, arousal is cumulative. It starts 30 to 45 minutes while you're chasing the cat around the house trying to get him into the carrier. And then you put him in the car, and you never take him anywhere else except to the veterinarian, so they know, right? They're on to you. So now you enter the veterinary practice with a cat who's already quite aroused. And if that cat becomes so aroused that it cannot be calmed, it's going to be an hour, 2 hours, maybe a day before you can lay a hand on that cat, before I can lay a hand on that cat. So those are the things that make arousal happen in cats. And the problem is, it's like filling a glass of beer. You just top it off and top it off and top it off, and then it's over. And I don't know about you, but I've had plenty of my clients apologize to me for their cat's behavior, because it just gets to be too much for them. This is my living room, I confess. 2 high-value cat trees, and underneath those 2 cat trees live 2 carriers. Their doors are open, and they're clean, and there's bedding in them. And what that means is that there's nothing strange arriving in the home range of my cats when I'm about to take them to see a veterinarian. There are people who tell me I only do these talks to show my cats. You're kind of right. So the cat carriers live, even when I have company, the cat carriers are part of the home range. And that means that the cats aren't stressed out by them. This is what we have to do. Now, when he gets loaded up into the carrier, as you can see by the size of him, he's quite food motivated. So he says, "Oh, okay, I'll eat that." And I'm going to cut out the videographer before you get to see a close-up of a cat butt. But you can see, right, this cat is not worked up about being in his carrier. So that's the kind of thing that we need to do. The other part is, what kind of a carrier do you have? I tell people when they ask me, and they don't always, when they ask me, I tell them what kind of carrier I want them to buy. I want a carrier that can be taken apart so that I can use the bottom of a carrier as a place to examine their cat, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. I also want a carrier that's a top loader. If I have a cat that's still going to be a little bit nervous, I don't want to shove him in the front of the carrier. I want to wrap him in a light towel and drop him gently into the carrier. So those are the kind of carriers I want you to have, so that when the carrier lives in the living room, it's also a place that's acceptable to your beloved cat. That's what's really important. So now we're going to try to minimize some of that arousal so that the cat feels the way mine does. They just go right in. And it's not a giant undertaking. How many of you have trouble getting your cat into a carrier? I figured as much. You're all cat lovers too. Can you imagine people who don't know cats as well as you do, how much trouble they must have, right? So here's the thing though, a lot of people say to me, I don't know why I have to go to get my cat examined. My cat seems healthy. So I'm going to tell you about what you should expect when you go to see your veterinarian. And if you don't get that, if you don't have that experience, you need to ask why. So there's 4 parts to a veterinary visit. The first one is information gathering. When I come into a room, I never touch the cat right away. The first thing I do is sit down, make eye contact with you, and have you tell me your story. And that might take a few minutes. There might be a couple of follow-up questions. But what I'm trying to find out is, what brings you here today? What kind of lifestyle does your cat live? How is your cat living in the household? How many other cats you have, for example? So this is the time that I'm going to learn your story and your cat's story. Then it's time to touch your cat. But meanwhile, while we were talking, I've also done an initial assessment because I've let your cat out of the carrier and he's walking around the room, getting a little bit acclimated, which is another way to reduce stress. If you let cats explore, they don't have as much difficulty with the space that they're living in. And so I'm going to talk about coat quality, alertness, emotional state, maybe gait. Cats don't limp, but sometimes they do. So I'm going to then finally get my hands on your cat. And hopefully that's not going to be a difficult thing to do because we've taken a lot of the arousal out of the equation already. This is one of the most important things that we need to do as veterinarians and really need your help in assessing this over time. And that's body condition scoring. Over 60% of cats now in North America are overweight or obese. That's huge and causes terrible health problems and terrible effects on quality of life. So what we want to do is body condition score. That is, what is the level of fat on this particular cat? And sometimes too skinny is also a problem, right? The other part that we've recently added that's really important, and that's muscle condition scoring. You can have a fat cat who has poor nutritional condition and not be able to see it because the cat isn't getting enough protein, for example. And that cat will still be fat, but when you run your fingers over the top of this cat's spine, and you can feel little nubby things, that cat has lost muscle. If you can feel the bones in the back legs or the scapula, the cats have a great big scapula, if you can feel any of that, even if that cat's obese, that cat might have a poor muscle condition score. And that has been demonstrated over and over again to have a huge impact on long-term health and quality of life. So you can actually even learn how to do it yourself, and it's really quite helpful. You can get this actually from the World Small Animal Veterinary Association.org. It's down here in the bottom, WSAVA.org. If you want to learn more about that, body condition scoring and muscle condition scoring is on that website. And I would encourage you to do it because you might recognize something in your own cats that might give you some information and make you aware of something that you might not have seen before. So muscle condition scoring is huge. And in my practice, every cat is muscle condition scored and body condition scored every time, every visit from the time I first see them. This isn't a matter of assessing for illness, right? Whoop. So, sorry. So then there's two more parts of the exam. And I want you to be aware of all of this so that you set your expectations and ask the right questions in case some of this isn't happening. The next part is we go back to discussion. If it's a wellness exam, it might be very brief. Well, you know, your cat really should have some flea control because he goes outside, or maybe we need some vaccinations, but it might be a very short plan. Nonetheless, we have to talk about what my recommendations are to you and why. And you deserve all of that information before you make any decisions. And the decision is yours, right? It is your beloved cat in these particular circumstances in your family. That's very important in making these decisions. And then come the actions. What are the actions going to be? Are they going to be routine vaccinations? Is there some diagnostic work indicated? What are the things that are going to give us the information that we need, perhaps, to assess this cat's health over the long haul? And then we're going to agree of how we're going to follow up, whether that's going to be a phone call or return visit, or what's going to happen next. And that's what you need to get every time. And it shouldn't take more than about 20 minutes or 20 to 30 minutes. So you don't need to spend the day, you know, don't pack a lunch. It shouldn't take that long to get all of this accomplished for you. The other thing people ask me a great deal about is what happens, and I get this call fairly routinely about 30 minutes after the client and the cat leaves the practice, right? They call me up and they say, I just brought my cat home. My other 2 cats are beating the living daylights out of him. What do I do? Right? Have you heard that? Have you seen that? Yeah. So what do? We plan ahead, right? Maybe if this has happened before, we take the 2 other cats and give them all the resources they need in a guest room, right? We make a plan for how we're going to keep this kind of encounter from happening. Remember that cats are different. They experience the world differently. They have an abundant sense of smell that's really quite profound. So even if they seem to you to be exactly the same cat, they may smell differently or look a little differently. One of the things that is a problem is bandages. Bandages set cats off like crazy. So we have to remember that cats have, and the color of the bandage is really important then. So I will put colors on cats that they don't see as well and that don't appear as bright. So we plan that part. And then the slow reintroduction, and you all know all about that from introducing new cats into your household, that a slow reintroduction is important, and it has to be supervised. You have to be right there to make all of that happen successfully. The other thing we use is feline facial pheromones. I will have clients either spray the inside of the carrier or plug in a diffuser in the house if it's actually been a problem in the past. We'll use a feline facial pheromone to help dampen down the emotional effects of having this cat come home. The other good news is that, and the other part of that is mixing scents. So if we have to separate the cats, perhaps they're prone to fighting, I'll send a client with an infused, a sprayed towel with facial pheromones and go in and rub the cats in the bedroom and come out with that same towel and rub the cats that are out in the living room, just to start to mix that scent again, because it is a family scent. Cats in colonies develop colony odors that are very unique to that particular group so that they all recognize one another and they know where each other are. So it's that profound sensory capability that cats have that make them so interesting. And the other part of it is maybe nothing's going to happen. My cats have been through this so much that they don't beat each other up anymore. So knowing that it might happen is important, but also knowing that it might not, and you might be completely off the hook. So I hope that at least I've convinced you that real health care for cats is a problem because of the experience, and it's also an opportunity for us to provide a better quality of life and health for our cats. The next part of this is about why you should look for a practice that has taken some steps to make it more tolerable for you and for your cat.
Well, I've been coming here for like 12 years now, and the reason I come here is the way my cats are treated here with, I should say, respect and privacy. The moment I walk in here, I'm always ushered to a room where my cat can feel relaxed. Like this morning, I brought my cat, Pearl, who was very, very nervous. And the moment we came here, the doctor and the technician treated her so gently and calmed her down and just treated her personally, like really catered to her individual needs. And that's what I have seen for, last 12 years. And I've always come here since I moved to Chicago. My regular cats, like the ones which are younger, I bring them every year. The older, I have older cats in the past, and they came here every 6 months. And we did uncover many different problems which couldn't have been uncovered if they didn't come here. Definitely many of them were treated with dental problems, cavities and gingivitis. One of the cats right now is being treated with dental cleaning today. This couldn't have been uncovered unless I brought him here. The other one was spinal arthritis. He was diagnosed with spinal arthritis, again, due to a regular visit. Another older one was diagnosed with diabetes because of a blood test we did. So, that's why I understand the need of bringing the cats on a regular basis, even though they seem okay, because they're not telling me if they have a pain. So that's what I do. Absolutely. I mean, many times I'm like, is that really necessary? Like, there are blood tests, doctor suggested blood tests, but I always go with it. I said, yes, let's do it. And they do really uncover, especially x-rays and blood tests. The things that would never be, visible come out. And the cats, of course, live longer, happier, and we take care of them better, So I always go with the doctor's suggestions and advice. Yeah, I take them very literally, whatever the doctors say. I think the doctors and the technicians, they understand cats very personally, like they know cat behavior very well, the idiosyncrasies of cats, the nuances of their, which cats only do, and cats are different from other animals. So they treat them accordingly.
So there you have it. She was a client at a very good friend of mine's practice in Chicago and gave the testimonial. And I think it's really important to remember that your cat deserves not only good health care, but gentle health care. And the way in which we interact with cats has to be modified to meet their specific needs. You can't treat a cat like a small dog. Everybody knows that, right? So some of the things that we work on in the veterinary practice are things like, instead of teaching my staff members to hold a carrier like this and bang it in the doorway, right, and hit the door jamb or whatever, they pick up the carrier, cover it with a towel to lower the stress, and that way the cat, once again, we're getting that arousal under control, so that it gets, and those are little things that we can do. We use feline facial pheromones. I use them on my lab coat. And the cat doesn't necessarily get on to the examination table. If I were going to build my practices again, I wouldn't have permanent exam tables. Because now what I do is I examine the cat on the bench next to the client. In this particular case, this cat did not want to be separated from his man. And so I sat down with them and did the exam on the bench. That's the kind of handling where we have a cat that really is a little bit stressed. We'll take the carrier apart. We don't turn the carrier upside down and dump them out of it. Cats deserve to be treated gently and with respect. So what we do is we take the top off, slide a towel in between the two clamshells of the carrier, and give the cat a soft feline pheromone infused towel to be wrapped in, and that often will calm them. Here's some other things. I talked to you about having the right kind of carrier. These are a couple of veterinarians who are doing a physical exam on a cat, and rather than take the cat out of the carrier, they took the carrier apart and left the cat in the bottom of the carrier with a blanket that he was accustomed to that already had his scent on it. So cats do a lot of self-soothing with their sense of smell, and if something smells like them or something smells like home, it can really make a huge difference in keeping their cats from getting frightened. So these are the kind of gentle handling seals. There's a really wonderful, you know when your cat rubs up against you? He's placing a pheromone on you from his chin, and there's also some really nice sensory spots right there. So if your cat loves to have his chin rubbed, do it, because it's a very soothing thing for him. So we teach our staff members how to do this kinds of soothing things that keep these cats in a situation where we can actually do really good physical exams and get the information we need to make a good healthcare plan. This is one of my associates who does, this particular calico wanted to have her physical exam on Michelle's lap. That's me on the floor. I made them promise they wouldn't take a photo of me getting up. But this particular cat is a longtime patient of mine, and he hated coming out of his carrier, and the client had one of these soft carriers. So I did the bulk of his physical exam on the floor with the carrier on the floor between my legs. So there are all kinds of ways to interact with cats, and what we teach in cat-friendly practice is how to think about cats differently, how to understand what gets them frightened, how to understand how to soothe them, how to handle them gently. We don't talk in loud voices. We don't scurry, because cats love to hunt small creatures. And so when you scurry, if you rush, you're going to arouse them. So we teach our staff members in cat-friendly practice how to take those things into consideration. The other thing is, I don't know if any of you have older kitties, but this is Maya. And Maya had kidney problems. She was 19. And we thought that she would feel better if she got subcutaneous fluids for her. And she said, absolutely no way, I'm not doing that. We tried to teach Mom at home, and she couldn't do it there either. And we had trouble too. I mean, she looks frail, don't you believe it. So we had to negotiate with Maya, and we did. And this is what happened. Once we had the negotiation, it turns out that an adequate dose of subcutaneous fluids for Maya was equal to 1 jar of chicken baby food. So that's what I think of as détente, right? Coming to an agreement with a cat for them to get what they need and do so in such a way that they've actually agreed. She cute? Good girl. Yeah. Yeah, and you should have seen Maya, man, when we hadn't discovered that quite yet. The other part of this is, and you all know this from going to different practices, is the waiting room can be another source of arousal. There are barking dogs, there are dog smells, and cats don't like other cats they haven't known their whole lives. So it's not just the dogs that are going to be a stressor. So sometimes we try to create separate spaces in practice if there's room for it. In this particular case, I went to see this practice in Rhode Island, small animal practice, and they said, oh no, we don't have enough room to create a separate space for cats, but they had this great big display area where they had big bags of dog food. So I said, well, how much do you think is worth it to move the dog food? What do you think? So that's what they did. They took that little alcove, they bought a little folding Chinese wall, and created a cat-only waiting area. And that really made a huge difference. The other thing we do is we put little tables where the cats are, so the cats don't get put on the floor, which is terrifying. They're put up at a level where they can see their beloved owners. So we want to make sure that we take those little steps to try to make it easier on cats to get the kind of health care they need. We want to create that supportive environment. The other thing we don't do is we don't talk loud, as I said before, but we also don't interact with multiple people at the same time. So we keep as few people as we possibly can interacting with the cats, so that because strangers are a stressor, let's face it. It's hard on cats to be around people they haven't known their whole lives. This is one of my assistants in Portland. One of the most important things that we do is try to make sure that we have the biggest asset that we have as veterinarians is the trusting relationship that we can form with you. And when we can demonstrate that we will take every step that we possibly can to make the visit a tolerable experience for both of you, that's the kind of relationship that we can build. So that when I say to you, you know, here is what I think we should do now as a result of the following things that I found, that you know that I have your and your cat's and your family's best interest at heart. And that trusting relationship is the most important thing that I'll develop at any point in my life. I went to veterinary school because I didn't think I liked people. I do. This is an assistant of mine in Chico. We have therapeutic laser. And one of the things that therapeutic laser does is it treats chronic pain. And cats don't limp, so they don't let on that they have it. And we discover it as a matter of good physical exams and other taking of history. But the most important thing if you have a cat in pain is not to do anything that will require that pain to get worse. So we never dump them out of the carriers, we never scruff them, we never stretch them. And we use really gentle techniques to make sure that the experience is as calm and easy on them as we possibly can. And once again, we take it slow. I think the goggles are pretty fancy. The other part of it is when you get into the exam room, you know, sometimes there's been a dog in there just beforehand, right? So some of the cat-friendly practices have set aside an exam room just for cats, or they'll set aside a day. They usually, no matter what day of the week it is, we call it Catter Day, right? So we do some disinfecting and cleaning, we plug in a feline facial pheromone diffuser, and we create this environment in which there aren't any of these smells and scents that can be a problem. And then we take that visit very slowly so that you can have the kind of experience that you want to have, and you're not mad at me or embarrassed by your cat's behavior or all those other negative emotions that make it a bad experience. We try really hard not to leave cats in the hospital. We try really hard not to hospitalize them. So we try to get them out as fast as we can. But if they are going to stay, we ask people to bring things from home. If there's a little bedding or something that smells like home, bring it. Let's feed the same food we always feed. So we take in some of the food because nobody wants to eat something weird, especially in a strange setting, right? So those are the kinds of things that can be part of the experience if the cat needs to be hospitalized. The little boxes, we get things from UPS all the time. So the little box is intended to be a little hiding place so that shy cats have a place to get away from all the commotion that happens in the hospital. And it's inevitable that there is some. So that's what we want to do. These are the kinds of things that we're trying to create: a safer, more relaxing environment. I really want it to be an acceptable thing to see cats for regular, good health care so that they can go on to live a long and happy and pain-free life. And so if I can do all the things that we talked about, then I can create that relationship and we can have the kind of experience that you will not want to never have again. We learned from a study that was done a while back that 80% of people who adopt a cat will bring that cat to see a veterinarian within the first year of adoption. And over 50% of them don't come back because the experience isn't something that they ever want to repeat. So if we can change the experience, we can change healthcare.